We got to give kids and young adults the opportunity to continue what they learn in the wilderness therapy environment when they leave. And also residential programs like Mountainside, when they incorporate an adventure component or an outdoor component. There has to be a safe place in the outdoors for people in early recovery. And that was, again, that whole foundation of me starting the company as a training organization specifically for people in early recovery.
Hi, my name's Isabel Donnelly, and welcome to The Sober Spill. Today we are here with Tim Walsh, creator and founder of Adventure Recovery. All right, today I'm here with Tim Walsh. For the people that don't know who you are, who are you?
Wow, right into it.
Yeah.
Tim Walsh, I'm the founder of Adventure Recovery. More importantly, I'm a person in long-term recovery. And for me, that just is a very simple story of having the incredible opportunity and grace to enter into recovery at the age of 22, and been living that lifestyle for over 33 years now, which is pretty crazy. It's been an amazing road, and it's been, lots of experiences through those 33 years of recovery. Most important accomplishments would be my children. I've got twins and a boy and girl, and they just graduated high school. And my wife and I have been together for 25 years, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Despite all of my flaws. And we started this thing 10 years ago as a opportunity to help as many people as we could through outdoors and adventure, and trying to give people in recovery especially an opportunity to find a pathway of connection to the outdoors, connections to themselves and one another in the outdoor spaces, and also to give people in early recovery specifically a chance to train and become outdoor guides. So it's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, and that's cool. I always think that getting sober young is a very specific experience. I got sober when I was 19, and so it's that divergence from, like I always talk about, there are a lot of milestones I feel like I didn't hit. Like I never went to a liquor store and bought alcohol until I was making vanilla extract as an adult and getting crafty, and I felt like I had to disclose to the guy. I was like, I'm not going to drink it. And he's like, I don't care. But it's a very unique experience. Did you feel that way too when that happened?
Well, yeah, when I came in at 22, I was by far the youngest guy in the room for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool though, because there was a lot of, folks 10, 20, 30 years older than me that wrapped their arms around me and said, stick around, kid, we need you. And it was kind of like at that time, this was 92 to 95, that young people just kind of started flooding into AA specifically. And I guess, the other rooms, but it was really, it was cool. I also got a sponsor who knew that his exact words were, if you stay in church basements, you're going to lose your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get out of here. So he's the one who kind of reintroduced me to the outdoors and then into technical outdoor skills as a lifestyle and, life experience. So he brought me rock climbing, kayaking, skydiving, and then I started snowboarding seriously, when I first got sober. And that totally informed, the lifestyle. So sure, I can go to church rooms, church basements and Zoom calls, but I got to get outside. I got to get my bare feet on the ground every day.
And I did some internet sleuthing on you, which now, because it's this setting, I can call it research. It's not internet stalking, to be fair. But I saw that your passion for the outdoors kind of started with being 15 and being scared of being sent off somewhere, being sent off to wilderness.
Ironically, yes. So at 15 years old, my parents threatened to send me to Outward Bound.
Classic.
And I ran away. I didn't go. I ran away from home. Like, nope, not going. And I actually have a paycheck from Outward Bound that I never cashed because I actually didn't do the work, but they paid me anyway because the trip got canceled. So I was hired to do a sea kayaking expedition for them.
So funny.
Many years later. And the other irony is I've never worked a day in actual wilderness therapy, which is a very specific modality. And but yet I go to the Wilderness Therapy Symposium every year. In fact, we were just there presenting last week. And I feel very much at home in that environment, of course, because those are my people, But yeah, for me, as a kid, I ran around in the little pockets of wood down in southern Fairfield County, Connecticut, and just built forts and caused mischief, minor mischief until I got into substances, and then
Major
mischief after that, for sure. Yeah, and so when I went to High Watch Farm, that's where I wound up going to treatment. It was pretty simple. Don't drink, do your chores, make your bed, go to 3A meetings a day, and stay as long as you can. And one of the cooks got drunk, so they gave me a job in the kitchen on my third week.
Nice.
So I stayed for 364 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And my day was wake up, make breakfast, and then take a break and run down to Kent Falls and run up and down the falls until I was physically exhausted. And then I'd sit. And I didn't know that was meditation back then, but that's what I was doing. I'd sit and clear my mind and, find presence and connection to the natural world. And then living up in Kent, Connecticut, I got to really see the outdoors in action. I got to see people with kayaks on their cars and rock climbing at St. John's Ledges and, going down the river on float trips, going to the, local ski areas. And I had no idea that I'd be, teaching other people how to teach other people how to do that stuff, how a lifestyle, and quite frankly, as a pathway to recovery as well. So one of those kind of pinch yourself. Is this real? Did I really get to live this life? So
yeah.
So it's been real important for me, my whole life.
And I love that you mentioned the being afraid of getting kidnapped to treatment. That's another young person specific thing.
Yes.
When I was 17 and 18, the only treatment center I ever heard of was Mountainside. And so when I'd get in the car with my mom, I would be like, are there bags in the back? Is it the day? Because I didn't want to get kidnapped to treatment because I wasn't ready to get sober. And it's funny missing out on that specific program because that's one of the few wilderness programs that doesn't have a class action lawsuit against it. So you missed out on possibly a good time, but if you're not ready, you're not ready. And that's also what I've seen in my research, was a lot of the modalities you offer and the programs you offer, they're not necessarily you need to stop now. They're kind of teaching people to follow their own instincts and preventative in a way.
Yeah. In fact, my greatest criticism against some wilderness therapy, not all of it, and other types of adolescent treatment is the practice of gooning, is the term.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So scary.
The idea that a kid gets quote unquote kidnapped out of their bed in the middle of the night. We actually work with those young adults now. They come to us I want to heal something that was taken from me. And it's not the case for everybody. I know some stories of people who that happened and that was the moment they needed, right? They needed that literal physical intervention. My dad knew he could have other goons besides himself and my uncles, I think he probably would have went for it. But it just, to me, recovery really has to be foundational and invitation. It has to be offered, not demanded, because I don't know about you, but I'm a rebel without a clue. You say go right, I'm going left. I still am that way, by the way. My wife says I definitely have ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. And I agree. I just don't like to be told what to do. Probably why I started my own business, right?
Yeah.
So the concept of taking a kid, especially, out of their bed, out of their home. And I also know, because I work with a lot of families and I have my whole career where they feel like they really have no other choice. So again, I understand the concept and I understand the practice, but in these class action lawsuits and such, they're there are two sides to every story. I want to remind everyone.
Totally.
And unfortunately, well, fortunately, victims who are getting a voice are getting their voice heard and on blast, and they should. And at the same time, it's not all programs. It's not all wilderness therapy by any stretch. There are really amazing programs out there. And for me, that was part of the motivation. That was like, we got to give kids and young adults the opportunity to continue what they learn in the wilderness therapy environment when they leave. And also residential programs like Mountainside, when they incorporate a new metric component or an outdoor component. Yet there has to be a safe place in the outdoors for people in early recovery. And that was, again, that whole foundation of me starting the company as a training organization specifically for people in early recovery. Because both Knowles and Outward Bound are the two kind of big schools for outdoor leadership, besides like the higher education programs. And neither of them will accept a person in early recovery for good reason, because that person doesn't have the support system around them in that cohort when they're out there for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days in a leadership training environment. And then there's also a very regular practice of a lot of things that people do when they're adults. When you come out of the field, you go straight to the bar and you celebrate because you've been eating rice and beans for 30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah, like the pepperoni stick.
Right.
And the peanut butter.
Whatever, right, exactly. High calorie, low weight to carry. But so for me, it's this whole process has been, I got trained in outdoor leadership from an organization that was just working with kids, for fun. And kids went for fun. There was no mental health component, not overt, right? There was certainly no substance use or behavioral issues. And we had a blast. And I got to, train kids in a sense from the ages of 9 years old all the way to, college age on outdoor leadership experiences and expeditions and outdoor technical skills. So every time I work with a group like that, super high functioning, I would then, look at our community and say, people in recovery can be very high functioning if given the opportunity. So it's just been this kind of, long road of learning how to put it all together.
Yeah, it's helping people regain their autonomy in a way and trust their instincts. Because when you're so used to, like when I first got sober, I would run by every decision that I made with other people, which can be helpful to a certain extent, but also I never trusted what I wanted to do. Even after I'd been in the program, I'd worked the steps, I was still like, well, what do I know? I'm just a drug addict. But so being able to learn to trust what I want to do and trust my instincts is extremely validating and helpful.
Absolutely. And nature does it for you, by the way. When you go outside and you quote unquote expose yourself to nature and all that it's going to throw at you, it gives you opportunity every minute, every day that you're out there to embrace your own nature. And by nature, we are here to thrive. We're hardwired for thriving. And addiction, quite frankly, is just a really sharp turn off of that highway. And if we find our way back to that nature highway of everything has its place and its purpose and its time, it's a speedway, and I don't believe in fast recovery. I believe in slow recovery.
Oh, yes.
But a speedway to what we're looking for in recovery, the peace of mind, the sense of self, the sense of purpose, clarity, connection, all these wonderful words we throw around, but they're out there. And, when you look at our history as a species, been around a long time. And most of that time by I think I've seen the example of if you took $1 million, right, and piled all that cash on a chair, 1 penny represents how long we've been living in 4 walls.
Yeah.
As a species. That's pretty crazy, right? So it's not surprising that now that we're a 4-walled species with screens everywhere.
We're like, what do we do?
All day,
Yeah.
every day, and we're miserable. It's not surprising, right? So for me, it's about just go, just get out and do it guided, ideally, because you'll learn a lot more. It's just sure, go to 12-step meetings and sit on your ass and don't do anything, right? You can probably make it, But if you really want to go, you really want to change and experience this life thing, jump in, do the steps, get a sponsor, take a commitment and be involved. Raise your hand.
Yeah, and getting outside is so enriching. Like, I know you were talking about the screen thing. I'll be in my apartment just doom scrolling online. I'm listening to Radiohead really loudly, just in a dark place. It's so bad. And when I move a muscle and change a thought, I have a big graveyard by my house. I put on music that isn't Radiohead and I frolic around. I just like run around, I skip, I embrace
Perfect. Yeah.
childlike whimsy,
Yeah.
and then I feel so much better. And I mean, finding peace in nature, it's such an important thing. It's giving people a safe space when they haven't necessarily had one. Where do you personally feel most at peace in nature?
Water.
Mm.
Yeah, water. I'm a whitewater junkie. So we were talking earlier about, will I be going out today because it's raining? So of course, and I'll be on the river. I'll be river surfing this afternoon, which is standing on a surfboard in a river wave that's standing itself and just, basically go anywhere. You're just on this continuous conveyor belt of bliss.
Your balance must be next level.
It's coming back. I've had some knee injuries this year, so I'm kind of shaky. But it's really, talk about nothing else exists. That's the coolest part about whitewater specifically, or even ocean surfing. Pretty much any activity we do outside, you just drop into a flow state and it just takes you, and you're not thinking about your taxes.
Well, you have to be 100% present, otherwise you're hitting the rocks.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And even when you're 100% present, you're hitting rocks.
Still might,
you're hitting rocks, yeah. But you take your licks because it's worth it. We have a saying: the juice is worth the squeeze. And the other thing is, I think it's important for people to hear is we fundamentally believe that adventure, just like recovery, is yours to define. Nobody gets to define it for you. So an adventure can be as simple as, I'm going to walk outside in the rain today around the block,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put down my phone, or better yet, leave it behind. And I'm just going to sit in a sunny, beautiful spot that's just nature and not human, manipulation.
Yep.
It could be, I'm, going to take my dog for a walk. I'm going to play with my dog, or some people now have adventure cats, which I find fascinating.
I've tried to make my cat an adventure cat, and he's just neurotic. I read a cat behavior book. He's neurotic because I'm neurotic, it turns out.
Okay, all right.
And he will not go outside.
There you go.
Just unfortunate.
But yeah, so, anything we can do to just get outside to me and stretch that comfort zone, that we hear so much about, especially in treatment, it's valuable, and do it. And what we find is that stretches over and over every time you go. And I don't know if you've ever heard this one, but how do you know when you've reached your edge?
Unsure.
You go over it.
Oh.
Yeah,
that makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
If you are suffering from a substance use disorder,
Yeah.
you know that, right? You know that there is an edge and you've gone over it.
For
right?
sure.
Especially if you're aware of it and you're trying to do something about it. So with adventure, we have a saying as well, like everybody goes big and goes home. Right? It's not or go home. It's go big and go home. Because what's the point of going out there and hurting yourself so badly or risking your life, especially when you're sober, right? When you finally have this thing that you've been searching for so long. So doing it incrementally, learning to approach that edge, and that's again where a guided experience is really valuable. I've been doing this work literally the entire time I've been sober, pretty much. So 33 years, give or take. And I still hire guides when I go on vacation with my family to take me to the places and do the things that I've never done. That's why I spend my money on that, and food, of course. Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah. Right. And gear.
Living up in this area must be hard to find, like, good restaurants. I feel every time I have to seek one out, my spirit's broken by the end of it.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Great Barrington kind of saves the day.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
So I was building mystique earlier about Tim introduced himself to me and he was like, I don't think we've met. And I was like, we have. So
Yeah.
I know. So when I was 19, maybe freshly 20, I was in a treatment center and they were having a business development event at the treatment center, and they did not want any of us like rascals around because we were
Rascals.
volatile. Yeah, we were
You're
volatile.
rascals.
Yeah. And so they didn't really tell us where we were going.
Don't come to a business development experience and actually see the people we help.
No, yes, they shoved all of our stuff in closets. They bought like blankets from Home Goods. I still have one. It's my dog's blanket now.
That checks out.
Yeah. And they packed us up in these vans and brought us to, as it turns out, I didn't know till years later, it was your backyard.
Literally.
Yeah, so we camped in your backyard. I remember having wet socks. I remember having to use the bathroom in the river behind your house and being like, how did I get here? And I met you. You were running.
I thought it was supposed to get better.
Yeah, I was like, I had like 3 months sober. I was cantankerous.
This is called homelessness.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, we're reverting. This is back to where I was. But I remember meeting you and I was like, who is this wise mountain man?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah, we need to spend more time together if that's what you really think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, where am I? What's going on? And one of the people that worked at the treatment center I worked at was like, this man saved my life. And so I was like, who is he?
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and so I didn't know it was your place until years, I think when I started working up here. And they're like, oh yeah, he used to work here.
That's nuts. Yeah, that was a great trip. And what's crazy, that was the only thing we ever did with those guys.
Yeah.
And gals, right? But
yeah.
like literally that organization. And it was epic.
It was
the feedback we got.
Yeah.
Right. The feedback was, I remember distinctly that last kind of photo and everybody together. Can we stay longer?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like there was a real, and that to me that's why we do it. Like, have you ever heard of type 2 fun?
No.
So type 1 fun is right?
Yeah.
This is fun. Type 2 fun is when you go out, especially it's usually outdoors, and you do something that's a slog and it's wet and you're cold and you're miserable and you're hungry and, you're bruised and you're beaten. And then you get home and you start calling all your friends like, that was awesome. It was incredible. Yeah. But that's awesome. That's one of my favorite all time. In fact, it's one of my arguments why I love women's programs in general and young women especially in the outdoors. You want to go hard and you want to go far, take young women out because they rock. I mean, any age actually, quite frankly. And I used to do a backpacking trip up in the White Mountains when I was active every winter with a friend of mine's mom and all her girlfriends.
That's funny.
And when I got sober that first year, she called me and she said, while I was, in treatment, she said, hey, we're going and all the boys are at college and I know you're free.
Yeah.
Because she knew what's going on. And she's like, we need you to be our Sherpa. You're coming. And I just went up there and spent 7 days on basically on the Appalachian Trail through the White Mountains in New Hampshire with these, 5 women in their 50s. It was epic, So to me, it's like, these are all those kind of, I think, misconceptions of the outdoors, right? There's a lot of women out there doing it, right? There's a lot of people of color out there doing it. There's a lot of people, from the LGBTQ community doing it, right? And I always joke like, yeah, the old wise guy, I look the part, I guess. But man, there's so much room for more,
Yeah.
So much room.
It's not just crunchy guys.
It should not just look like me, guys with bare feet, right? Like who's.
I know. Well, you've empowered me because week after week, I want to take my shoes off. I like to be barefoot. I like to be crossed. Like I want to fold myself.
So you saw
into
me
a
take
pretzel.
mine off, and you're like, all in.
I felt empowered to do it finally.
Excellent.
I was like, they can't tell me no if
well,
you're
I
also
should have
doing
made
it.
sure it was in the contract for this that shoes off is part of my policy. Like if I present at a conference or something,
toes
shoes off,
out, or I'm
shoes
not coming.
Off. Yeah, I got to be grounded. Yeah.
So you used to work here. What did you do here?
Wow. So I was part of the original team when we opened this place up. It was kind of absolutely crazy. It was, a very small group of really passionate, like-minded people who were like, we can help people, and we should, and so the very beginning when we opened, I was a combination of building an adventure program while being a recovery counselor, while, being a driver, while being a, emergency cook,
Doing anything.
Cutting the lawn, painting the room, whatever it took that needed to be done. And then I left, but stayed very close and connected, and then came back years later after my kind of tenure in outdoor education and outdoor leadership programming. And when I came back, the very specifically was like, okay, I'm not spending any time in the building. That's my office. I'm going on the mountain, and I'm going to do everything on the mountain that I wanted to do when I first came. But we just didn't have the resources, quite frankly. And the agreement was, yeah, go for it. This is why we called you. So that was just literally like, I was very adamant that we need to teach outdoor skills, not just like the challenge course stuff. And I'd done a bunch of challenge course stuff already. And I knew that for recovery purposes, a challenge course will create what we use this term, adventure in a can. It's like, psh, wow, that was cool. But where's the continuation, right? Where's that continuity of practice and skill set? And where's that recovery? Because I've never actually had a group call me and say, hey, Tim, let's all go to the adventure park,
Yeah.
Right. But they call me all the time and say, let's go climbing, let's go rafting, let's go hiking, let's go camping, let's go surfing, let's go, right? So we started this CIA program then, which was so cool. I think it's changed a little bit now, but the fundamentals were, here are the fundamental skills, here are the fundamental tools, here's your food, figure it out. If one goes down, we all go down. So we're staying, right? And you volunteer to go. You might be a little nudged by your clinician, but it's your choice to go and to stay. And but once you're up there, we're a community, and we're going to live as a community, and we're going to dig in a little deeper than maybe what we're doing in the four walls. And I would tell the facilitators, your job is to do as little as possible. It's their experience, because this is what recovery is going to be for everybody. So if they take advantage of it, they're going to get that, real clearly, that being on the mountain, fending for yourself in a small community, that's kind of the way that, 1 million, versus a penny experience. That's how we're hardwired.
Yeah.
Making decisions as a group, making sure we're well fed, well watered, well covered, and well entertained, right?
Oh, yeah. I hear some of the craziest stories from clients when they're up on the mountain. And so many people speak so highly about that program. So I had no idea that was like your brainchild.
Yeah. It's so cool that it's still going strong. I love it.
Oh, yeah. And people, like I said, they have the best stories from it. We had a client who he went up and he brought his backpack, and a bear ate part of his backpack and ate like an entire pack of cigarettes. And so we were joking around. It's like the film Cocaine Bear, but nicotine bear. He's going to be jonesing.
There you go.
Yeah, he's like, I need a spirit. Someone help me. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the idea, right? Is get people out of that quote unquote comfort and put them in a realistic environment of what we really are craving. And I also like to tell people that this idea that you have to be uncomfortable to grow, right? I don't think that's necessarily always true, but it helps. It doesn't help if you're being coerced to grow, right? And coerced into discomfort. But there's something truly magical when you realize, like almost like that you can do something that's really hard. And let's face it, recovery is really hard, especially in the beginning, right? And there'll be times, I tell people, doing this a long time, there are going to be plenty more times where it's going to be really hard. So what are your fundamentals? Stick to the fundamentals, keep them close, keep them well practiced. And that's the same thing with being outside. If you have your fundamentals down, you're always coming home.
And so how do people get involved with adventure recovery? Like, how can people...
So I think for the audience, on the podcast, the easiest way is reach out to info@, adventurerecovery.com, and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're looking for, what you want to do. We do individual one-on-one experiences. We do group experiences, and we train people to be guides in the outdoors and with a mental health and recovery focus. We actually also are accredited in both Connecticut and Colorado as recovery coach trainers. So our full curriculum is fully accredited by both Connecticut and Colorado. So if you're interested in becoming a recovery coach, it's a really cool way to get trained to do it, because nobody else does it like we're doing it.
Yeah, no sitting on like a Zoom for 40 hours.
Out there having a great time.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that was really cool, is being able to tell these two recovery, these boards, these certification boards, that outdoor leadership is a recovery pathway. It's a coaching pathway.
Totally.
And they were like, wait, this is literal. I'm like, yeah, we are literally teaching people how to navigate, as a recovery tool. But the other thing I think this actually gives us a great opportunity to talk about is our groups are 4-person minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a crew of 4 and you want to do something really cool, give us a shout. Like, we'll build you a program. And that's what we do with all of our business. The only thing that has a curriculum is the trainings. All of our group programming, all of our individual programming is client driven. So they choose what they want to do. How hard, how far, how long, and how much. Those are the questions we ask.
Yeah. And
you answer those questions, we'll build you a program.
That is so cool.
Yeah. It's really awesome. I'm living the dream beyond my wildest dreams.
So they say.
It's real.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Well, thank you for coming out. It's
Thanks
been great to talk to you and
great getting to know you a little bit too. And I can't believe that. I love. You're like, don't worry, we'll get there. That was cool.
He's like, how do I know you? I'm like, don't worry about it. You'll find out.
Well played.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. Thank you. And if you want to check out Tim, all of his information, like that email, will be linked in the bio. And yeah, let's go outside.
Let's do it.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, Mountainside can help. Call 860-365-6764 to speak with our caring treatment team.